live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I am Charita Minipurarachi. Joining with me today is Sharon Screenings. A technical defect inactivates first generator at the Lakvijaya power station in Norachole, further extending the periods of power cuts. The Indian government's hand over a maritime surveillance aircraft to Sri Lanka. A new circular relating to state expenditure management. The Yuan 5 Chinese observation vessel is to arrive in the island tomorrow. Intellectual Committee report on inquiries relating to social inequalities in the eastern province has been unveiled. 3 locally manufactured medicines released to the market. 40 persons killed in a fire in Egypt. On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with the top local story. The first generator at the Lakvijaya power station in Norachole was destabilized due to a sudden technical fault this morning, and the generator has been contributing 270 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. Acting General Manager and Engineer of Ceylon Electricity Board, DCR Abhisekara, says that it would take roughly around 2 weeks to restore the machine. The second generator of the Lakvijaya power station is also currently out of order due to engagement of essential maintenance work. The total capacity of the generator is also 270 megawatts. Due to the dysfunctioning of the 2 generators, the national grid has been deprived of a total 540 megawatts of electricity. The General Manager says that as a result, daily power cuts up to a duration of 3 hours is possible with effect from tomorrow. The government has decided to conduct schools in all 5 working days of the week from today. The schools have remained closed intermittently in the past 2 years as a result of the COVID pandemic and the fuel crisis. Schools were compelled to be closed due to the spread of the corona disease since March of 2020. Although school sessions have commenced lately, the government had to close down schools from time to time since then due to rapid spread of the disease. Upon controlling of the corona pandemic, school sessions were conducted for batches of students. Accordingly, academic activities in schools were restricted for 3 days per week. Subsequently, emergency of a fuel crisis also paved the way for the conducting of schools only 3 days per week. Our correspondents say that attendance of students was at satisfactory level in some urban schools. More than 75% of the students have attended classes. Distribution of fuel under the QR methodology has been successfully continued. In the past 2 weeks, fuel were distributed under the program in both urban and rural areas. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says more quantities of fuel will be provided to farmers in the Polonnaruwa district to enable them to engage in cultivations and to reap their harvest. The minister has made these remarks at a discussion on fuel distribution at the Ministry of Transport and Highways today. Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara and Roshan Ranasinghe as well as state officials have also attended the meeting. Minister Gunawardena has instructed officials to immediately reconstruct and store fuel in oil tanks of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation located adjoining to the railway stations at Kadruvela and Valikandil, Polonnaruwa district. An identification sticker has been pasted on 3-wheelers in the Tibirigasai Divisional Secretariat Division for the purpose of facilitating receipt of fuel. Accordingly, stickers were issued for around 1,200 3-wheelers. Receipt of vegetable stocks to economic centres has been increased with the streamlining of the process of issuing fuel. Our correspondent says that more standing farmers are now carrying their produce to the economic centres. In a joint operation conducted by the police stations of Puttalam and Anamadu, 7 persons engaged in a racket of selling petrol have been arrested with taking into police custody of nearly 13,200 litres. The police says the contraband was raided to be taken in distant areas.
In other stories, the Indian government's contribution of a Dornier 228 maritime surveillance aircraft was officially handed over to the Sri Lanka Air Force this afternoon. President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Indian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, have presided over the ceremony held in this connection at the Katnayaka Air Force Base. The initial discussions between India and Sri Lanka over providing a Dornier 228 type maritime surveillance aircraft had commenced in the year 2018. As an outcome of the talks, with the Indian government has agreed to provide Sri Lanka free of charge for the first 2 years. A Dornier 228 maritime surveillance aircraft, that is. Duration for the manufacturing of this type aircraft is 2 years. Another Dornier aircraft is to be handed over to Sri Lanka at the end of 2 years. A special feature of this aircraft is its ability to use a rather shorter runway for landing and for takeoff. These planes are able to monitor Sri Lanka airspace and its maritime zone. They could also be used for search and rescue operations as well as for observation and controlling of maritime pollution. These aircraft would enable to consolidate the national security via the vision of the Sri Lanka Air Force, dubbed as productive utilization of air power. The Dornier 228 aircraft was landed on the Katnaik Air Force track at 12:20 this afternoon. Thereafter, the Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle has officially handed over the craft to the President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who inspected it. The President has later on posed for a group photograph with the Commanders-in-Chief of the three armed forces and the high-ranking army officials of the two countries. A special guard of honor was also conducted on behalf of the President. The President, addressing the ceremony, said India and Sri Lanka have no separate journeys. The President has reiterated that as history has bound India and Sri Lanka, the two countries would appear as a joint group in future as well.
We have seen a further expansion of the role of Sri Lanka's Air Force. This is the start of a cooperation between our Air Force, and Navy and the Indian Navy in maritime surveillance. You've taken over charge of an aircraft which belongs to the Indian Navy, and by next year you will have a gift of your own Dornier aircraft. So first and foremost, I must thank Indian government and also the Indian Navy, who've been helping us from time immemorial. India today is becoming a world power, and it is still on the rise, and by the mid-century, when we are no longer there, you could see a powerful India playing a dominant role in the global stage. That itself is a tribute to Pandit Nehru. There's something more that we in Sri Lanka must mention, which a lot of people don't know. Pandit Ji gave us full cooperation for Sri Lanka to enter the United Nations, to become a member. We have common viewpoints in many. We are but a small country in the middle of the ocean, while India, while looking after its own interests, must also look at its role as a global power. But it is essential that we speak to them. After all, India is our closest neighbor. And there are many issues which are common to us, of which we are understanding, of which we have to resolve, not only issues that pertain to Indo-Lanka relations, but to the region and to the Gulf. So in this area, it is possible for us, and it has been on many occasions for us to come to an agreement or have a similar viewpoint with India. It's with those that we consolidate. But being two states, two governments, there are also times when we have differences which should not become disputes. Our relationship is not merely one of between two countries. We've gone beyond that. We have a common heritage, and also what is very common to the southern tip of the Indian subcontinent. This is on what we have built up. So we have all these commonalities, and we have to build on it. I've always said that we are two sides of a single coin. It is not possible to split a coin for one face to fall one way and the other face to fall the other way. Whatever it is, history has put us together, and we have to stay together. What is this relationship? I really haven't got a word for it. The closest I could come was a symbiotic relationship between the two countries. So when we are both now marking our 75th anniversary, I would say let us commit ourselves to further strengthening our relationship.
It's a matter of great honor and great happiness for me to be here today at this venue on this occasion when the Dornier 228 aircraft gifted by India has been inducted into the Sri Lankan Air Force. As has been mentioned, it's a very special day for India. Today, independent India, a country, a civilization of antiquity of thousands of years, but a young republic, completes 75 years of independence. And today I am proud to say that as the Indian foreign policy is based on the cornerstone of neighborhood first and the doctrine of Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region, the benefits from the growth of India, the benefits from the strength of India are for all our friends and neighbors to share. Today's arrival of Dornier 228 to the shores of Sri Lanka, to the land of Sri Lanka, this beautiful island, Excellencies, is a symbol of the benefit and advantages to our friends and neighbors of a strong India and of India's strengths. The Dornier 228 aircraft is of direct relevance to Sri Lanka's needs for safety and security, but also the region's need and the region's need for cooperation for mutual safety and security. And therefore, I am very pleased and very privileged to be here when this Dornier aircraft has been inducted, because this is a day which will enhance the contribution, our mutual contribution, not only to each other's security, but also to the region's security, well-being, and prosperity. Mutual goodwill, mutual understanding, mutual trust, and cooperation between close and good friends, such as India and Sri Lanka, enhances not only their individual security, but also provides an environment conducive to developing their cooperation for prosperity and well-being.
It's a day that marks the true nature of the relationship and camaraderie between the two great nations that have always shared very strong and close bond. This major event unfolds a new chapter in defense cooperation with specific focus on maritime security. The region that we collectively inhabit is home to well over 2 billion people, and it's important that all do our part to ensure that life for everyone is safe and secure. In this backdrop, we come together collectively to ensure and enhance an empowered enforcement of regional maritime security in the best interest of all. Let me take this opportunity to thank the government and the people of India, the defense services, particularly the Indian Navy, for gifting us this Dornier 228 aircraft. From this day, our maritime capabilities will be enhanced by several notches.
And meanwhile, the government says that it is imperative to follow the regulations of the circular issued by the Secretary to the Treasury pertaining to the management of expenditure. A communique issued by the President's Media Division says that the institutional heads are personally responsible over outside state expenditure. The President's Secretary informs that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has instructed that all heads of state institutions should comply with the Circular of National Budget dated 26th April and directed by Secretary to the Treasury titled Management of State Expenditure. President Secretary Saman Ekanaike has informed the relevant facts via a letter directed to all Ministry Secretaries, Provincial Chief Secretaries, Heads of Department, District Secretaries and Head of State Corporations and Statutory Bodies.
President Secretary Saman Ekanaike has informed heads of government institutions that in dealing with judicial issues or related activities of which the government or the government officials become a party, the relevant officials should refrain from engaging in direct written communications with the justices of the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice, the Judicial Services Commission or other judicial services. The state officials who should adhere to this order of the President Secretary are the secretaries of the ministries, the chief provincial secretaries, heads of the departments and heads of the government corporations and the statutory bodies. However, communications with justices of the High Court and district judges are being exempted from this rule. The President's Media Division says the instructions have been delivered today in a letter addressed to all ministry secretaries, chief provincial secretaries, heads of departments, district secretaries and heads of government corporations and statutory bodies. The communique adds that the relevant officials should ensure to engage in written transactions only with the Department of Attorney General as instructed through the regulations of the Establishment Code and the relevant public administration circulars. It further points out that if documentary transactions are being conducted with the Department of the Attorney General outside of the above-mentioned issues, such written communication should be carried out only through the President's office. The communique of the President's Secretary also points out that these regulations, as pointed out via the circular, do not applicable over normal administration routine with the Ministry of Justice or any other state institution. The same rule applies regarding the documentary transaction pertaining to judicial officials and Judicial Services Commission.
And meanwhile, the senior lecturer in the Department of International Relations of the University of Colombo, Dr. Hasitha Kandhudewa, says Sri Lanka is bound by the international maritime law to extend the relevant facilities to Yuan Wong 5 Chinese inspection vessel, which is scheduled to arrive at the Hambantota harbour tomorrow. His schedule further says that he does not believe that the arrival of a scientific research ship would create a direct impact on Sri Lanka's national security, and the ship is scheduled to be docked at the port of Hambantota till the 22nd of this month. Senior lecturer in the Department of International Relations of the University of Colombo, Dr. Hasitha Kandhudewa, said that there is a belief that the turning away of the Chinese vessel would cause an impact in coming into an agreement with the IMF. Currently, 8% of Sri Lanka's debt lies with China. Therefore, Chinese cooperation is essential. Sri Lanka will also have to comply with the UN Maritime Charter and as a sovereign state to maintain its economic stance, including restructuring of the debt. Sri Lanka may also come under international criticism if the country breaches the agreement. Unlike the Pakistani ship serving the Indian Ocean region, the Chinese vessel is only a surveillance ship. The ship has sought permission to anchor in the Hambantota harbour only to receive humanitarian facilities. The ship Taimur of the Pakistan Navy has left the island today upon completion of a successful joint naval exercise. The vessel has reached Sri Lanka on the 12th of this month on a 3-day official tour.
පරීක්ෂණ හා ගවේෂණ නෞකාවක් මේක යුදමය කැටගරියකට අයත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එවැනි තත්ත්වයක් තුළ ලංකාව බැඳලා ඉන්නවා අවශ්‍ය වන මානුෂවාදී පහසුකම් ලබා දීමට විශේෂයෙන්ම ජාත්‍යන්තර සාගර නීතිය යටතේ. මේ ප්‍රවේශය මත තමයි මේ නෞකාව හම්බන්තොට වරායට පැමිණීමට සඳහා අවසර ඉල්ලා සිටියේ සහ ඒ සඳහා වූ අවසරයන් ආරක්ෂක.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says that his party is ready for an all-party joint program. He has made these remarks addressing a public meeting in Palmadulla yesterday. The opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said that they are prepared to bring the country out of the present turmoil and ready to go for an all-party joint program. He added that they do not traverse on a wrong path and never engage in despicable political culture. They will also not involve in any political setup for their own well-being. Sajith Premadasa further said that the country will have to receive a fresh mandate in their near future and that it will allow SJB to create a new beginning. He added that he had refused the post of Prime Minister when offered. If you are not bound by the policies, you cannot go forward. He also said that they will not be trampled by money or illicit political transactions.
And meanwhile, the Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has called on the Mahanayaka of the Ramaja Mahanikaya, Most Venerable Makulave Sri Vimalathera, at the headquarters of the Mahasangha in Narahempita today. The Mahanayaka Theras has pointed out in this occasion that priority should be given for the immediate resolution of the problems of the people. The Prime Minister has responded by saying that the government continues to expect the guidance and blessings of the Mahasangha on the government's future program. He added that the government is already engaged in measures to speedily resolve the problems of the general public. The Prime Minister was accompanied to visit by the parliamentarians Sisira Jayakodi, Yadamini Gunawardena, Jagat Kumara and Suren Raghavan.
India has celebrated in gala fashion today its 75th anniversary or Diamond Jubilee or independence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his address to the nation said India would achieve the status of a developed state within the next 25 years. India has regained independence from the British rule on the 15th of August 1947, mainly as a result of the independence struggle, including the non-violent campaign of Mahatma Gandhi. The country, with a population of over 1.3 billion, has acquired the status of a regional power by the 75th anniversary of its independence. The state independence commemoration ceremony was held in front of the historic Red Fort in capital New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has presided over the ceremony, which was also attended by President of India, Mrs. Draupadi Murmu. The Prime Minister has commenced the unique event by hoisting the national flag. Delivering the main address in the colourful ceremony, the Prime Minister Modi said diversity has become the strength of the forward march of this country. He added that India is becoming the mother of democracy and directed its capabilities as a central power based in the global system. Now, state authorities headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi have paid floral tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Rajghat in New Delhi. Sri Lanka has been maintaining bilateral relations at an extremely high level with its closest neighbour India in the past 75 years. During periods of turbulence throughout history, as well as in the present economic crisis, India, as a friendly state, has been extending maximum cooperation to Sri Lanka. A ceremony was also conducted in connection with the Diamond Jubilee of Indian independence at the official residence of the Indian High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in Colombo. High Commissioner Gopal Bagle has presided over the ceremony and commenced the proceedings by raising the Indian national flag. The Sri Lanka Navy Band has provided music for the Independence Day ceremony, which was highlighted with several cultural features. Similar independence commemoration ceremonies were held at the Indian consular offices in Jaffna and Kandy.
And meanwhile, the annual feast of the Church of Madhu in Bana was conducted in a grand scale today with the participation of hundreds of thousands of devotees. Bishops of Bana, Reverend Emmanuel Fernando, has presided over the event, which has commenced at the auspicious time of 6:15 this morning. The service was conducted by bishops of Anuradhapura. Special prayer session was conducted by Auxiliary Bishop Reverend Anton Ranjit Pillai Nayagam. Thereafter, the statue of deity was carried in procession around the streets of Madhu Church. A special session to offer blessings to the devotees was also conducted. The Madhu feast was not conducted during the past 2 years as a result of the COVID pandemic. Many pilgrims have expressed their appreciation over the conducting of this event this year.
The O2 organization says the Golf-Face Green should once again be reconstructed to make it a place of attraction of tourists. The site was subjected to damage during the recent period of agitations. Opinions regarding reconstruction of the location were highlighted at a media briefing on the O2 organization in Colombo today. The executive director of the O2 organization, Samira Aryaratna, said that since the colonial days of the people have been flocking to cities, they are also the places of commencement of the tours. The highest number of hotels are being located in the Golf-Face area. He has further stated that wrongdoings had been committed under the name of agitation. The executive director has called on the youth groups to join together to make this area an enchanting place once again.
Meanwhile, the Intellectual Committee report inquiring into social injustice in the Eastern Province has been officially launched. A media briefing to enlighten on this issue was held at the auditorium of the Government Information Department today.
360 from Trinco, 682 from Batiklo, and 336 from Ampara. All the issues they have studied and given a recommendation for each and every one. Only few have been implemented so far because mainly team, with this recommendation, they go to the DS office and they call upon all the people who have been involved in this issue, and they have to come and then they discuss and they have an open discussion with the public officers as well as the applicant and discuss the recommendation, and only if all the parties are agreeable, the recommendation will be implemented by the relevant officer, the person who actually has the authority. Because of the fuel issue, people have said not to, we had to temporarily stop because all the applicants cannot come to the DS office.
Out of 363 cases which related to the DS office, we call 148. Out of 148, we could solve 101, and still 15 cases are in pending.
Governor, there are that you appoint a committee and for the public problems, but the thing is there are the civil servants, the government officials are still facing some problem because some secretaries in the provincial ministry, they are continuing more than for 7 or 8 years and 10 years. So because of that, the junior staffs didn't get a chance to become a secretaries or something, because as I know, last more than 5 years, same people are rotating the provincial secretary post, ministry post. So what kind of actions you are going to take in further?
In the province, maybe 6 months ago, we did a complete reshuffle, as well as not the same people, as well as the people who have not got their appointments due according to their grade. We have taken all that into consideration, and we did secretary appointments about 6 months ago. And recently, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we again appointed all HODs. We took only one main thing we have taken into consideration was their qualification. The qualification, the grade they have achieved, the experience they have for that particular appointment. We did that change very recently, and most all the HODs and the secretaries are not the same people who have been there for 3 or 4 years. Such people have made complaints. I have got a lot of political influence or complaints from people, very humbly explained that to all the political people who are trying to influence me through political leaders, that we have done this in a fair manner, and we don't want the same people for more than 5-6 years staying in the system.
The State Pharmaceutical Corporation has released 3 new types of drugs to the market today. There were medicines dealing with thyroxine deficiency, treatment on gastritis and a painkiller. Minister Kelly Rambukvella said that these drugs will be issued to the government hospitals and the private sector. He added that the program is being carried out under the project to locally manufacture 40% of all relevant drugs. Stay with us. Foreign news is coming up next.
Hot and spicy, cheering got the navy, Saturday baby. Kappe, match a pandora, Saturday baby. Hit the talent at the winner, fun minimum winner, Saradavi at the Nari go to me from the mouth, fun papa play winner, set take a connectuna, Saradavi at the Nari go to me from the mouth. Prima cut to me, Fantan.
Welcome back with international news. Egyptian officials says that a fire sparked by an electric fault at a packed church in working-class district of Greater Cairo has killed at least 41 people and injured another 45, Egyptian officials have said. About 5,000 people had gathered at a Kopich Abu Sifin church in Ibaba, Giza for morning services yesterday when a fire broke out just before 9 a.m. local time. The security sources told Reuters that flames and smoke blocked an entrance to the church, causing a crowd crush, adding that most of those killed were children. Witness said that some people jumped from higher floors in an attempt to escape. Witness described how people rushed into their burning building to rescue those trapped but were soon overwhelmed by the heat and smoke. 15 firefighting fighting vehicles have managed to put out the blaze in the narrow street by Sunday afternoon, when footage from the scene circulated online showed damage to the church, including burnt wooden furniture. Worried families waited outside for news about missing loved ones. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi offered sincere condolences to the families of the victims. The Prime Minister and other senior government officials arrived to inspect the site later, and the Prosecutor General ordered an investigation. The Interior Ministry, which oversees Egypt's police and firefighters, said an initial report found that the fire broke out on the second floor in an air conditioner, which then short-circuited, producing huge amounts of smoke. Smoke inhalation was the main cause of death, it said.
On to more foreign news. A 63-year-old man has been charged with firearm offences after firing shots inside Australia's Canberra airport yesterday. Police said that the man from the New South Wales sat on seats in a check-in area before shooting a number of times into the building's window. No one was injured in the incident, which sent passengers running in fear. Gun violence is rare in Australia, which has some of the toughest air firearms laws in the world. The suspect was quickly detained and a gun recovered. However, police say that his motives are still unclear. The capital's airport was evacuated as a precaution and several flights were cancelled or rescheduled. Australian media reported that the suspect fired approximately 5 shots. Bullet holes could be seen in the glass windows of the terminal. Footage has emerged on social media, purportedly showing a man being arrested by police officers at the airport. Cat owners in Waldorf town in Germany will be allowed to let their pets out for the first time in 3 months when the authorities lift a special lockdown. People in Waldorf in Southwest were ordered in May to keep their cats indoors to protect an endangered bird. Cats were only allowed to venture outside if they were kept on a leash no more than 2 meters in length, but the animals will again be allowed to roam free from today. If a cat escaped with a lockdown was in force, owners were told to call a special hotline, then fine and detain the offending feline. Any breach would result in a fine. An owner whose animal injured or killed one of the protected birds had to pay up 50,000 euros. Authorities had been attempting to protect the local population of the crested lark, saying the species was endangered in the state of Baden-Württemberg and wider Germany. They said that they were just 3 breeding pairs left in Waldorf itself.
Prima Kotomi Pantan.
Welcome back, and now sports update. The Isipathana College Colombo has been successful in winning the Under-19 League Rugby Tournament Championship, and they have beaten the Royal College of Colombo at the finals, which was held at the Havelock grounds yesterday.
Both teams were evenly matched and played a game of attacking rugby since commencement of the match. The first half of the game has ended in favour of the Royal College team with a tally of 10 for 6. However, in the latter, the Isipathana team had competed brilliantly and beat their rivals for 21 for 15. The victorious team had become league champions by scoring a goal, a try and 3 penalties. This was the 16th occasion of the Isipathana College team winning the League Rugby Championship trophy.
And that's it for tonight's news. Do just tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Charita signing off with Sharon. Stay safe. Good night.